Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
Phelps with 10 meters left. 3 minutes too good. The crowd roaring. Freeman gets down.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Listeners, joining me on the Physical Performance Show today, I have Damien Williams. Damien Williams is a Gold Coast-based runner, cyclist, and all-round athlete who, Damien's one of the most inspiring guys I know. You'll get to hear a bit of the story here about Damien losing his vision years ago and going on to do some of the most incredible physical things you can imagine. So I've been looking forward to catching up with Damien, and here we are, finally connecting. So Damo, as everyone knows you, welcome to the Physical Performance Show, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Brad, for having us on, mate.
Mate, it's an absolute pleasure. So tell me, Damo, what's one thing that scares you?
Not a lot. Coming down a hill these days on a bike, it really scares me. After last year, I had a big crash down in South Australia and nearly about 60k an hour. So that does put the wind up me a little bit now, but it's been a while since I've been on the road. So that's about one of the only things. 60 kilometres an hour. Was there any bad injuries off the back of that, Damo? Busted shoulder, really bad hip, and just a lot of bark off. And fairly lucky to survive going down a hill that fast. And a couple of cracked helmets, and the bike survived it pretty well. So we ended up racing at the end of the national. So it was good.
So you carried on. You picked yourself up and kept going.
Yes, yeah, well, I had to. There's nothing else. We spent a day in hospital and a few days off the bike, and then it was sort of straight back into training on the stationary bike. And it was about 2.5 weeks to the nationals, which we were able to get out and race for, so which is good.
Gosh, and to give listeners some context, Damo was riding with a pilot. Is that right at that stage?
Yes.
And how did the pilot fare?
Same thing, shoulder, hip, busted helmet. Other than that, it was his second crash. Someone took him out probably 6 weeks prior to that.
Oh, gosh.
You know, so he had he was sort of suffering a lot more than I was, so I hadn't been down before. And it took him a little bit longer to actually, with steering a tandem, it's really hard on the pilot to keep it upright in the steer. It's just a lot more difficult for him than it is for me. All I got to do is stay stable on the back and not wobble around and leave the rest of the pilot, and that's easy for me, but not for the pilot. Right.
So let's come back. We'll talk on all your major sporting achievements. There's many as per the introduction to Damien. But Damo, take us through your story. Where'd you grow up?
Here on the Gold Coast.
Gold Coast boy.
Yeah, Labrador end.
Yep.
Labrador, Bigger Waters, all that area. I was born in Ipswich. We moved down here when I was very young and moved into the Labrador area, and just as Dad got work, we opened his own business, him and Mum, as a painting firm, and we just not moved around, but like I said, around this area, Labrador, Bigger Waters, Paradise Point sort of area. Worked. I left school at the age of 13 after losing my first eye with a pair of pliers, and I sort of stayed at school for maybe 6-8 months after that, once I got out of hospital, and then went to work at the age of 14 and a bit.
Wow, so Damo on the loss of the eye at 13, did you say?
Yes, I was 13, yeah, on the school holidays in June.
So you're 13 years of age, on holidays. What happened?
I was mucking around in the garage with a piece of timber and some pliers, trying to pull a nail out of a piece of timber, just playing around, and the pliers slipped off the nail and went straight through my left eye, the handle of the pliers.
Wow. And did you know at that point that that you'd seriously hurt your eye?
Pretty much, yeah.
You knew
it went in a fair way, and I could just feel just down the side of my cheek, right down the side of my cheek to my mouth. It was just not good. So I ran inside with my shirt over my eye, and my mother was on the phone to her best friend, and off we went to the doctors, and they rushed me up to hospital, and who knows how many hours of surgery, and yeah, that was found out the next day, I think, that I wasn't going to see out of that eye again.
And that was which eye back in?
My left eye.
That was your left eye at 13 years of age, and so there would have been I'm a physiotherapist, not ophthalmologist, but there would have been a fair recovery period from losing the complete sight of one eye, even as a 13-year-old, I imagine.
Yeah, I suppose being lucky that young, you don't think about it. You just get on and trying to still have fun later on. So I really don't remember if it was difficult with depth of vision or anything like that. I didn't notice it. Because, like I said, I was just more interested in getting out and doing so. I was still young, so the hard part was getting back to school and getting in with the crowd again, which was really difficult. As you all know, what kids and teenagers can be like. So I dropped the ball and I went to work. My mother said, if you wanted to leave, you have to have a job. So on the Friday afternoon, by Saturday morning, I had a full-time job.
Wow.
Just stayed there ever since.
That was how long after the accident? Approximately?
Would have been maybe 6 to 8 months later on.
Yeah, okay. So you went back to school, found it a little bit tricky.
Bit difficult, yeah.
Yeah. And were you fairly physically active back then? Most 13-year-old boys are, but were you doing any specific sports? Or?
No, not really. I did a lot of cross-country when I was younger in primary school. Cricket, soccer, and that's, But by the time I left school and went to work, it was a full-time job, 6 days a week, so I just stayed at work.
Yeah.
I didn't go back to sport until later, until I lost my sight.
So you're working, you're in the work zone, you're 13 or 14 years of age at that stage, on the Gold Coast. What was your work again?
I worked in the hardware at Gold Coast Building Supplies at Runaway Bay.
Okay, so in the building industry.
Yeah.
And then what happened from there? You worked and met your beautiful wife Melissa at some point.
Yeah, in between after that, I swapped a few jobs. As I said, my mother and father owned their own painting business, so I decided to do my apprenticeship through painting later on in life. And then went back to hardwares, then started working in nightclubs and stuff on the surface. Meanwhile, also doing day work with my father, going back to painting. So I was doing 2 jobs at once. And that sort of got a bit much after 12 months. So I said to the nightclub I'd only work from sort of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the busy nights and the fun nights. And the rest of the time I worked for my father, sort of 5-6 days a week, until I was a fair bit older.
And so you're just in the working zone. There was no sports. It was just work.
It was just work and party.
Yep. So the cross country was a thing of the past at school.
It was, yes.
Work and party.
Pretty much.
Exercise was going to the clubs of Surfers Paradise.
Yep. Well, running around the clubs for 6 hours, 8 hours picking up glasses was hot enough, and that was hard enough. And I used to. The only thing I used to do back then was I didn't have my license, so I'd ride my bike everywhere. So, and that was just riding. It wasn't going out racing or anything like that. It was just riding to work, riding to my friend's place from sort of Coomera to Narang or Coomera to Palm Beach and stuff like that. So you do a fair few Ks over the weekend if you're up to it.
Yeah.
But that was just getting places because I didn't have a license.
Yeah. So just getting around. And then Damien, so we fast forward to I believe there was an incident then that followed on the golf course. Is that right?
That's right, yes, at the age of 27.
So it's 27, and take us through that story there, Damo.
Wednesday afternoon, finished work early, done the job, and we used to play golf 3 to 4 times a week, sometimes more if you could fit it in. Went out to Century Cove to play 18 holes, and on a Wednesday afternoon, and we're on the 18th tee off, just waiting for a bunch of blokes to get well in front of us so we could tee off. And just tapping the ball to each other, my mate and I. We've done it 1,000 times before, and he's probably 10, 15 feet apart, we are. And just tapping the ball, and all of a sudden he must have angled the club wrong, and it just hit it and went straight into my right eye, directly into not my eyebrow, not my cheekbone, and just pulled it right out.
So, but pulled it out as in the eyeball.
It just pulled, It's much like a squash ball.
Yeah.
Just a suction.
Suction.
Yeah. I mean, it probably would have been different if it hit my cheekbone or hit my eyebrow. Probably would have given it some relief, but because it just went straight into the socket when it came straight back out, so did the eye, so did the socket.
And Damo, that was a mate of yours that you'd had many hits of golf with.
Yes. Yeah.
And so 27. At that point, did you know that? This was not good.
Oh, I knew that was finished.
Really?
That was,
you knew instantly?
I knew that straight away, yeah.
You knew instantly?
That was worse than the 13-year-old one. By that stage, I'm 27, a bit more realistic, in my life, realisation in my life. And I knew the eye was sitting under my chin.
Wow.
The cord. So when I say it pulled it out, it pulled it right out.
With all the optic nerve and everything else.
Lot.
And so the damage was done at that point.
It was, very bad.
And I mean, what was going through your head?
First thing I said, I'll never see my beautiful wife again.
You said that.
That was my first words.
You said that.
My first words that come out of my wife, besides "ouch."
Yeah. Yeah. Ouch first. Yeah.
Other than that, it was very difficult for my and Mum. We're still really good mates. Really good mates. It was really difficult for him to get me into the golf buggy and get me to the clubhouse.
Yeah.
He's trying to steer. He's trying to hold on to me because I couldn't you're moving around the golf course, and I'm just trying to hold on. And first time with no vision, I'm all spaced out in the head, massive headache.
Big headache.
Didn't know what was going on as such. Got me to the clubhouse, and it wouldn't have been long before the ambulance was there. Wasn't allowed any, not medication, any pain relief. Wasn't allowed any for a good 3 hours for someone with a head injury.
Yeah, wow.
Back then, they got me to the Gold Coast Hospital, and there I'm just laying there, and all I could hear was the footsteps of my wife come up, and I actually sat up, turned my head, and said, "There's my wife coming," and they were surprised that I could actually know that after losing my sight within about 3 hours. It's amazing what kicks into gear. I knew my wife's walk; she was wearing high heels, and spot on. And from there was straight to Brisbane into, I think it was 16 hours of surgery, something like that. I can't remember. By that stage, they had me high on anything I could just get rid of the pain. So it was all up to my wife back then to what was going on. She'd done a magnificent job.
And what was Melissa's first words to you? I mean, can you remember?
Has he had any pain relief?
Have you had any? Yeah, okay.
That was the first thing. My wife's very right up to date with first aid. She's always has been good with it. Very level-headed. So that was her first words, and then asked how I was, because she knew I was in a lot of pain. Yeah. And she just asked, "Has he had any pain relief?" And then straight on, "What can you see?" Blah, blah, blah. And by that stage, I'd been wrapped up. I couldn't. Yeah. I knew it was bad, and I pretty much knew that I was never going to see again. Yeah. But
based on what the doctors had told you, Damien?
No, just based on you. If I knew the first one wasn't nowhere near as damaging as the second one, and I sort of knew that the first one was all over. I just had a really bad thought that it was just going to be over and done with. But what do you do?
And so you're in Brisbane, and at what point were you given the definitive diagnosis that there was no?
I think it was 5 days later.
5 days.
I was in hospital for, I think, 7 or 8 nights.
Yep.
I think must have been the 4th or 5th day when they ripped the bandages or something like that. The ophthalmologist came and took me out to the back room. They'd done a test, and then he was actually crying himself. My wife said he was brought to tears because I was so young at 27. 27 is not young, There's a lot worse out there than that at younger age, copying that sort of grief over many different accidents. And he said, "No, you won't." So there was nothing they could do. I did have the option of having a transplant. I think it was a cornea transplant, but it meant laying down and face down for 3 months. And the chances of seeing anything was very remote. And I thought to myself, they gave me a few days to give an answer. And I thought, it's more dangerous seeing a shadow, in my view at that point of time in my life, it was more dangerous for me to see a shadow and maybe I thought it might have been a step up or a step down or anything like that than actually not seeing it all. That's the way I thought about it. So I chose not to use it, and I'm pretty happy with my decision.
And there was no guarantee that if you did the cornea transplant that there would be a good outcome.
No, that's exactly right.
So
yeah.
it was
let someone else who can use it, who knows they're going to get an outcome out of it.
Wow.
Yep.
And so, Damien, at that stage, there was your children weren't on the scene. Obviously, it's Melissa and yourself, your jobs.
Yes.
And what happened next? I mean, where do you go from there? You're 27. In your head, you knew straight away that something wasn't right. I mean, I could only imagine, and most people only will ever imagine, and that it would be like. Was there a process of obviously grieving and?
I think there was. It took me a good year to get over it. Within that year, we were pregnant with our first son.
Yeah.
It just. What do you do? I was lucky enough. My wife took 6 months off, but that went from you just can't do it. We couldn't live. We went from two pretty good jobs to living on the pension and a carer's pension.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough at the time. My next door neighbour, who was also in the building game, he had knee reconstruction. Yeah. So he had 6 months off as well. Not long after my wife had to go back to work, so we could actually live. So that sort of pass the time.
Did you had some company?
Yeah, so it did. And the gentleman used to live next door. So, it's sort of... And then by that stage, times were getting better day by day, week by week. And we signed up to... I started signing up to sport and looking into guide dogs and different things like that. Yeah.
How long after the injury did you first start the sport, so to speak?
Well, in 98, I lost my sight in May.
Yep.
I think it was May. And in 99, I was in the mid-99, I was in the Queensland team for a sport called goalball, which is a vision impaired sport.
Fantastic. So, and did that help? That just helped with
for
that?
sure. Yep. Yeah, it did.
What changed? Like inside, what changed for you?
Just mixing with people 3 or 4 times a week. I had to do a lot of travelling. They never held it on the Gold Coast here. They had a come and try day on the Gold Coast in Nerang, and everything else then I had to travel to Brisbane. So that really did change my life. If I wanted to get out and do something and further myself, I actually had to travel to Brisbane and meet someone at the other end and go from there, and then sometimes getting home at 11 o'clock at night by myself, and that was really weird. You know, having no sight, it's on a train station, sometimes changing over at Beanley. Yeah, well, all the other boys lived in Brisbane. I was the only one on the Gold Coast.
Oh, wow.
So, and then I ended up getting a guide dog, which made it a little bit safer.
Yep.
But, you know, still hairy nonetheless.
Yeah. So, goalball. From there, what was your next sport?
Shot put.
Shot put. So there's a theme here. They're involving balls at this stage.
Yeah, shot put, yeah.
So shot put.
I broke the Australian record within 6 weeks.
For visually impaired?
Yeah, for blind, yeah.
Yeah. So, and is there a difference between visually impaired and blind? There must be, I presume.
As in a category of sport?
Yeah, your category.
Oh, for sure. What they do is they base it on the world record of your vision.
Okay.
So if you're let's say it's track or field, I'm an F11, which is totally blind.
Okay.
So they base it on, so the closest to the world record, if you break your world record, that's how they rank. It's very difficult to get into. There's so many categories. It's really hard. So
what was your shot put distance? Can you remember?
9.76.
Wow. That's so 9.76. And so from there,
yep.
What came next in your sporting world? Because I know where you ended up.
Yeah.
But I'm just wanting to build that backstory.
Went to running. I was getting too big. I was eating too much. I was probably enjoy myself, because you don't really have to be super fit to be a shot putter. Had to be fit to be into goalball, very physical game. Yep. But as a shot put, you don't have to be. So I was just eating and probably drinking too much, and I got to nearly 120 kilo, and I had enough of that, and I was unhealthy.
And was that being driven by? Was it just like a
boredom? Yeah.
It wasn't depression per se.
Oh, look, I suppose a fair bit of it was, but you sort of just push that aside and you just blame it on boredom. So I got back into my music. I started playing drums again. Tried to learn the guitar,
which you were doing previous to the accident.
Started learning the drums after I lost my first eye.
Yep.
Done all that to keep me busy. Wife obviously was back at full-time work. Oh, as much as you could.
Yep.
When you can get it, and it just went from there. So
running. So we're now, we've gone through the goalball. We've had the Australian record. Was it Australian record?
Australian record.
F11 shot put, 9.76 metres. How long after was the started running?
Not long, actually. Not long. It wasn't long. Like I said, I started getting too big, nearly 120 kilos. So I hired a treadmill. Yep. And I started walking 27k a day on that. Three times I'd walk 9k a day. And then I started losing weight, changed my food, stopped my drinking. Everything all slowed down, really slowed down on my drinking, not stopped it. Yeah. And just started losing weight. One day I turned up at the track at Griffith University.
So we want to go there because it's going to be a good story. But why 9k 3 times a day? Just because that's...
Oh, boredom. And the treadmill only went to 9k an hour, so I'd walk for an hour, and then that was first thing in the morning, and then at lunchtime I'd do it again, and in the afternoon I'd do it again. Wow.
So that was walking predominantly at that stage?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes, yeah.
Yep, because it went to 9k an hour. How did you end up at Griffith University track?
I just
running track.
Wanted to start running again because I used to love my cross country as a kid.
Yeah.
I used to love it, and running around in the nightclubs for 8 hours, I was fairly fit.
Yeah,
and still doing a bit of riding back then. So I wasn't unfit before I lost my sight. Around that 18 to 21, I was fairly fit still, and so I just jumped in a cab one morning, said to the miss, I'm off to Griffith University, and lo and behold, I arrived there. I think 4:45, and a gentleman called Russell Jackson turned up.
Wow.
And he took me on board, and he was with, obviously, everybody we know.
So, and Damien's referring there for listeners for a bit of a running group that we've both been part of, on and off for the last, really, for me, probably 7 or 8 years, Damo for a bit longer. So, had you planned to meet this gentleman, Russell, there?
No, I just turned up on a whim. Hopefully somebody was there, and a cab driver said, do you want me to wait? I said, no. I should be right. Because I knew they met there on a Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
So I just waited, and then somebody turned up, and I thought, I hope this is a nice person. Because no one else around, didn't have my guide dog with me.
Wow.
Just my cane, and just waited. And it was winter time. It was pitch black or not doesn't make a difference for me, but it was winter time.
And Damo, did you have a rope to run with at that point?
Yes, I did. So I done a bit of research on what people were using,
Yep.
and it ended up what I used to begin with was a dog chew, like a figure 8 dog chew.
Yep.
And I used to use that for many years until we found out that wasn't the right way to do it.
So you went along, you had your device, your dog chew, hoping that there'd be someone there. There happened to be someone there, gentleman Russell Jackson.
Yep.
We both know, Russ. And what happened next? What did you say to Russell?
Really, I can't remember. I really can't remember because it's going well over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We ended up just getting to chat, and before I knew it, his wife went to school with my sister, and they were still friends. So it worked out that way. So that's sort of made a bit of a connection straight away. And we just started running around the track waiting for everybody else to show up. And I thought I was pretty fit, walking 27k a day. I'd probably dropped 10 or 12 kilo by then.
So you're down in the 90s at that stage? Or,
no, it was still, about 105, 107.
Yep.
And then they started running around the track, and I found out I wasn't fit. So
how many laps did you get out that day?
Oh, I'm not. I think I'd done the session.
Yeah?
I'd done the session, yeah. If I'm going to do something, I'll do it.
Yeah.
If and then, lo and behold, further down the track, they're saying, like, even if you do the session slow, you get the session done. At the end of the day, you feel better for yourself. And I learned from experience. And I make sure if I put a session in my head, no matter what it's with, get it done. Even if it is a bit slower than what you generally could do, you've got the job done, so you're always going to progress.
Yeah, and that's something I've observed of your training over the years that I've known you. I don't think I've ever seen you cut a corner.
No, I try not to, no.
So Damo, all right, you've had your first run at Griffith Uni track. What does the running then take on from there? I mean, listeners, where we're going is in 2013, Damien ends up running 7 marathons in 7 days across Australia. So we're bridging the gap with that story. So Damo, how did you get from your first run to these competitions that you started to enter, these events?
I ended up getting onto Sporting Wheelies in Brisbane and see what events they do for visually impaired and blind athletes.
Yep. And
it wasn't long after that I met a fella called David Fitter who works at Harbour Town.
Nike, Dave.
Nike, yes.
Yep.
And we got to chatting. He'd often come around once or twice a week. We'd go out for a run. And as I said, I was speaking to Sporting Wheelies, and they ended up having their... I can't remember now if it was not the Nationals, just Queensland champs, and they had it at Runaway Bay Sports Super Centre. So I ended up going there, running with Dave Fitter, a 5k race.
And how'd you go that first 5k, first race?
23, was it 20, mid-23s, I think. I can't remember. Like I've talked a long time ago now.
Yeah.
I was buggered.
Yeah, that's a fantastic 5k debut.
I was absolutely buggered, and then it just harder training from there on in.
Yeah, and so and then what would you say is in those early running years was your major, the run or the race or the event that you were most proud of in terms of your result in those first few years of running? Just
the achievement of getting off my backside and not sitting around feeling sorry for myself and just going out and doing it, and the help of all my runners to put themselves in the position where they didn't have to, of helping out, because it is a hard when as you know, some of the races, some of the runners I have run with, they're a lot more elite than I am. I'm not a bad runner, but some of these fellas are absolutely brilliant runners, and to put their races on the standby list to help me out year after year after year is exceptional.
The Gold Coast Airport Marathon's our local event here in terms of running.
Yes,
on the Gold Coast. The course actually, is probably runs north from where we're sitting here in your home, about probably 500 metres across the road.
Yes,
is where the track goes. What was the first marathon you did? What year was that approximately? How many years ago?
I think it was supposed to be 206, I think.
Yep.
My first marathon, 205, I think it was, and I ended up getting a stress fracture. So I had to...
Of what, Damo?
My left tibia.
Your tibia shin,
yes,
yeah.
Yep.
So stress fracture, so the Gold Coast Marathon didn't happen that year?
No, it didn't happen that year.
Yep.
Not at all. And then it sort of not got blurred. I'm just trying to think what I did because I also switched to tandem bikes not long after that.
After the stress fracture.
I think I mixed it up a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you got on the bike.
Got on the bike. Yeah.
Yep. And
but I think 20. I think it might have been early 2006. Early 2006 was my first marathon.
So early 2006.
Well, yeah, 2006 with the Gold Coast. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was your first debut time in the marathon?
3 hours 29:48, I think it was.
How can you remember how that first marathon felt? That last 10K?
Yeah, no. I felt dismal. Yeah. I felt it shouldn't be like this.
Yeah.
I went on experience that people say it happened, and I thought I trained enough, but that last 10K is just let's put it this way, I've never felt like that ever before.
Yeah, and brutal, isn't it?
Yeah,
That first one, you just don't know what you're in for.
Yep.
And then Damo, off the back of that, you went on to, just on the running at the moment, you went on just to run the Gold Coast Marathon pretty much, yearly thereafter, except for maybe a few years?
Yeah, in between, yeah.
Yeah. I recall one year, it was my first marathon, mate, which I think would have been about, can you remember the year you did your PB in?
Was it was it before Beijing or after? I can't remember.
2007?
Yeah, I think it was.
Or 8 even. If you cannot help me out, because I can't remember the first marathon's year, but it was the one that you ran in. And listeners, the story is Damo was trying to go sub 3 hours, and as most runners that are out there know, that 3 hours is a bit of a line in the sand for a really good marathon.
Yeah.
And I was in the same situation. Damien was in a couple of years early with the first marathon, not knowing what had hit me at that last 10K. And I remember passing Damo with about, maybe 8-9 Ks to go. And then the last K and a half, here comes Damo, and I think you might have had Russell running with you then.
Yes.
Yeah, it was Russ. Probably. And the boys came past, and Damo, you went on to run, 3 hours? And
31 seconds.
So 31 seconds off that elusive 3 hour mark.
Yes.
Did you lose any time through the run you'd take back?
No, I don't think I did. I didn't realise how close I was. I wasn't... I was in a good space in my head at the time, but I didn't... I just didn't realise how close I was until I crossed the finish line.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's an exceptional run.
To tell you the truth, I didn't train that hard for that one that year. I think my longest training run that time leading up to the marathon was only 18K.
Yeah, wow.
I just went out and really, really enjoyed it. It must have been 2:07 because it wasn't long after winning the nationals in cycling. And I was just in a really good spot. I was enjoying it, and believe me, the way I find my fitness after cycling for 6 or 8 months, I can have 6 months off running and go back to running, and I'll lose. I wouldn't have lost 5%.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it does. It works for me really well, cycling.
Wow. Well, you beat me that year by a good minute, Damo.
Only once.
that's all it takes, right? Don't worry, there's plenty of people that still beat me. But Damo, so that was incredible. So then so you did the Road Nationals in 2007. The time trial had a victory in that. So national champion.
In cycling?
Yes, cycling.
In tandem,
yes. In tandem cycling. And then from there, Damo, what came next after your first, I guess, marathon? Then you followed up with a PB, 3 hours and 31 seconds.
Yes.
Picked up a time trial Australian Championship on the tandem bike.
Yep.
What happened next? How did we get to this 7 marathons in 7 days? How did that start?
Look, I was just training really hard. I was concentrating year in year. I would swap sports. I would literally go cycling for a year or 6 to 8 months and then swap it back to running. And just depends who I could get. If I couldn't get any runners, I'd go to cycling. And then if I couldn't get any cyclists, I'd go back to running. So I'd just swap it year in, year out to see what I was. And I was just getting quicker and quicker with the runners I had. It's very hard to get cyclists here on the coast who want to ride a tandem. They don't trust themselves on a tandem. I don't know why, but it's no more difficult than all the rides I've had on the front have always said it's no more difficult than riding a single. It's just a little bit heavier to control, but it is very hard to get some cyclists to jump on a tandem. As I said, I was sitting around one day, and my wife and I have done a lot of fundraising for small charities, little kids charities, a couple of 12-hour bike rides and different things with that. And one day I just heard for Bravehearts for child sexual abuse, and it was 7 marathons in 7 days in 2013. And I'd just love to give that a go. I've run a few marathons. I'd done a couple of ultras, probably 4 or 5 ultras by then, 50k ultras. And I'm thinking to myself, now who can I ring to find out? Who can I get someone? Who's crazy enough to do this with me? And how much money have I got to fundraise? And it was just all these thoughts are going through my head. So I thought I'd ring the wife. Said, do you reckon I could give this a go? What do you think? And this is after I found out how much money we've got to raise.
Yep.
And I spoke to a few people, and people, I don't know if I can get the time off because it's over a week. And I said, you don't have to pay anything. We'll do the fundraising. You're paid for. The only thing you have to pay for is your own snack food. I thought best person to ring is Peter Hall. So I rang Peter Hall, and he managed to rattle off a couple of names, and lo and behold, I reckon within, don't quote me on this, I think it was the same afternoon, he rang me back and he said he'd do it.
Wow.
So I was just in awe to run with someone like that. The knowledge Peter Hall's got over the years he's been doing it, and to put his hand up to guide me around Australia, well, at 7 states, a marathon in each state, I was just overwhelmed, and I just trained and trained and trained. Yeah.
And for listeners, Peter Hall's a Gold Coast runner who incidentally owns a Nike store, Nike Robina, and one of the runners that if you live on the Gold Coast where Damo and I live, that it's pretty hard not to know Pete. He's a bit of a local legend, isn't he, Damo?
That he is.
So it was the Peter and Damien show, and off you guys went for 7 marathons in 7 days. Which state did you start in?
Western Australia, Perth.
Perth?
Yep.
And the marathon was done at early in the morning, or?
I think most of them started around about 6:30, 7 o'clock, because it was in that September time, so it wasn't too hot.
And how many other runners, Damo, were running?
Well, I think there was 13 or 14 all up. Yeah,
all running for the purpose of charity, the Bravehearts Foundation.
Yes, that's correct.
And were you the only visually impaired runner?
I was, yes.
Yep. Yeah. And so Damo, Perth first. Second was?
South Australia.
South Australia. Yep. South Australia to?
Where'd we get Melbourne?
Melbourne to?
Tasmania.
Tassie to
Canberra.
Yep.
Sydney.
Yep.
Then Brisbane.
Wow. So first marathon, you've done a few previous to this, probably about got through it. Okay.
It was okay.
Second day?
I was in a world of hurt.
Really?
I was. I was. Second lap, I think there was 2 laps, and second lap I was in a world of pain. Didn't know what I was in for. I was training on the treadmill, and if I couldn't get out on the road on the treadmill, 25 to 30k a day.
Wow.
A day for at least 4 days straight, and then I'd probably run 10k or 12k and then add back into it again. And I thought that would have been enough, 20, but to do it on the road or to do it on the footpath, wherever you are, and then to have that, it was a fight in the head to get through. Pete was trying to get me through. I ended up getting through on the day, obviously, but it was a world of hurt. It was the worst pain I've ever felt, even worse than the first marathon.
Wow. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and that second day, and on the top of this, you got another 5 to go. Yeah. What were you thinking at that point?
Well, once I stopped, I was all fine.
Yeah.
As we all know, once you finish a marathon, 3 minutes later, so let's go do this again until you try to take, run up 50 metres and you had it. But by the time we got back to the unit, showered up, had a feed, got on the plane, went to the next day, and then all of a sudden, it just kicked into gear. The body thought, well, you've trained for this, you know what you're doing. And it just got easier and easier and easier. Yep.
So, all right, so third marathon, didn't feel as bad as the second?
No, nowhere near it, no.
The fourth marathon?
Easy.
The fifth?
Tough course, Tasmania. It got quite hilly.
Yep.
I got put into a pole there by Pete. It was fun.
So how did that happen?
Coming off a bridge.
Jumping off a bridge?
Coming off a bridge, yeah. It was hilarious, actually.
What happened?
I can't remember now because you're getting tired, and even though it felt good, I can't remember if he said get behind or go the other side, or he went to push me wide of the pole because it was in the middle of the bridge coming off it, and I probably just didn't hear right, and it got me right in the groin. It was fun, Had a bit of a laugh. There was another fella, Chris Roberts, with us at the time. We all had a bit of a chuckle, and then it took me a little bit to get going again though because it did hurt, and ended up going through that.
And Damo off from Tassie to Canberra.
Canberra.
Yep.
Had a really good run in Canberra.
Yep.
A really good run in Canberra. It was like, let's put it this way. I think we ran 3:40 something in Canberra.
Yeah, wow.
3:40. It was an amazing experience. Just went out and just floated along, and by the end of it, we were just ticking along real easy. I just felt really comfortable.
Yeah.
Really comfortable. Yeah.
Wow. And then 5th, 6th, and 7th, just getting easier.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And was Peter finding the same?
I think so, yeah. Because Pete can run a lot quicker than I can, but I think he just, as all good long distance runners, he just he clicked in his head. He had a job to do, and he wanted to polish it off himself, and it's a great achievement.
Yeah.
And he just took it on board. He never slowed down. He left it to my own device of what pace I wanted to run, and he was fine with that. Never.
Wow.
There was never a moment stopping him either.
Yeah. What pace were you running at, kilometre?
I think we averaged over the whole marathons. Just a tick under 4 hours each marathon.
Yeah, right.
There were some that were around just over the 3.5.
Yeah.
There was one bad one in Sydney where the first 5K was through bushland. Oh, not bushland, but it was on the riverheads. And it's all sandstone cut out through the bush, and it was a really tough ask.
Yeah, right.
And Pete got me through it. Didn't even come down once. It was just brilliant guidance, just unbelievable. Got through that, out to the headlands, back up through Bondi, I think we were, and then we ended up in Bicentennial Park.
Wow.
And we had to run 4 laps of Bicentennial Park, I think.
Yeah.
And once I got to Bicentennial Park, I was off. Let's get the job done. Let's get out of here. And I was just flying. It was fun. Just really enjoying it at that stage.
Yeah, wow. And you made the mention there of being guided by Pete. I haven't explained, but for listeners, Damien will be on, say, your left side, and with the rope, which is just a circular rope, little firm bit of rope, and stand side by side. Your arm swing goes in tandem, and you try and get your inside legs landing at the same time as well. And when that happens, it's almost like one person running, and when that doesn't happen, it feels like two completely different people running.
It does.
So if you can picture, listeners, that we're talking about unsteady terrain and unfamiliar roads and different things. So it's an incredible effort from both the Damien and the guide, in this case Peter, to get through this. This is no small undertaking.
Oh, I think Pete would have had a bigger headache that morning than I did, because the concentration he would have to go through to keep me upright.
Yeah.
All I have to do is listen and hold onto his shoulder, because I spent 5K on his shoulder, just behind him,
with your hand on Pete's shoulder.
And just
guiding
through him. I had to. There was single file all the way.
And does it ever, what does it feel like when you are, like, how do you feel when you are running? Like, what do you feel?
Free. Yeah.
You feel free.
Yeah. I'll tell you one little story. A mate of mine, Mark Diber, which a lot of people know, he's been running for a long time. One day we were at the track at Griffith University, and I think we were doing 400s, and he let me go at 75 metre mark.
He let you go by yourself?
He let me go.
Yep.
And I'd never, that's been a long time since I lost my sight.
Yeah.
And it was just unbelievable. Just the freedom was just, I was just gone. Just gone. I mean, lucky we started in the middle of the track.
Gone as in you were gone as in your head. You were like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah, but I just took off. It was just the more power you've got. Yeah. It's amazing how much power you lose when you're, even if you are in sync.
Yeah.
You do lose probably 5-8% of that pushing power. You really do.
Because you're almost, and I've done numerous runs over the years with Damien in training, and you, even though we're going forwards and often going relatively well, in terms of our pace, you just still feel that side to side sort of friction, don't you?
You do, yes, yeah.
So that's that 5 to 8% you're referring to.
Yeah.
So when Mark let you go this morning at the track, you just felt like you took off.
I just took off, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And the space in my head was just, this is just unbelievable. You don't get much better than this.
Yeah. Wow.
No one's been game enough to put me on a bike by myself. even on a track.
So, and back on that, so let's go to the final day of the 7 marathon, 7 days, 7 states challenge.
Yep.
How did that one feel compared to the first or the second?
Good. It did feel good. It was a bit of a tough course. A lot of pavement over a few bridges out to I forget now. One of the big pubs on the river, and had to double all the way back. But that exhilaration of that sort of the last 5 to 8K, you got it done.
Yeah,
it's just awesome. There was 3. It was myself, Peter Hall, and another chap from Melbourne called Chris. I can't think of his last name now.
Chris from Melbourne. Yep. So Chris. That's okay. So we won't go there. We'll start a names thing, won't we? So Chris, yourself, and Pete got across the line there. So that was a total of kilometres. Doing quick maths in my head. 7 4s, 28.
96K or something like that it was.
So incredible. And how did the body pull up after that, Damo?
That night was good. Had a few drinks. It was good. Next day, I did come home and I did jump on the bike the next morning. I did, just to turn the legs over.
Yeah,
Wife and I went out for breakfast, and I come home and said, I'm just going to jump on the bike for half an hour.
Yep.
I had an ergo bike here, and I jumped on, just ticking really slow, just to let the blood flow. And then after that, it was I rested for about 5 days.
Yeah.
It was really sore, really swollen ankles. Yeah. It's amazing how it doesn't happen while you're doing it.
Yeah.
It's amazing how the body will change and react to when you finish something like that. Yeah.
And
the mind was the hardest part.
The mind?
Getting over, meeting the people and the experience.
Getting over that, as in
getting over, not being in that tight knit group again, because you're with them for nearly 8 days.
Yeah. And very supportive environment.
Yeah. It was just a great bunch. I don't, they've had it since then. I'd like to do it again, but I think the difference of not having the same group of people might not be the same, could be the same, I'm not quite sure, but I don't want to risk that chance, because that was just an amazing group of people we had do that. It was exhilarating.
Would you rate that, Damo, as your greatest physical achievement to date?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, hard to top. I mean, not hard to top, not for you, but hard to top to date from what I know of your running career.
A couple of 12-hour rides have been tough.
Yeah.
Delusional at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Think I'm actually pedalling backwards. I have been, and I've done that twice, that 12-hour ride. The only other biggest challenge I think I've done is I ran 100k for motor neurons disease last year. My first 100k, yeah.
And where'd you run from and to?
I ran from here, I just all around up to Macintosh, down to the Spit, all the way back over to Helensvale, just all around the place, and then finishing off in Surface Mall.
Wow.
I just did that for a mate of mine, had motor neurons disease, so I thought I'd train, and picked up a new guide runner, and we just trained. I had 4 runners to help me out that day, and I done that. So it was a cracker. It was a really good achievement. That was...
How many hours?
8 hours 53.
Wow.
For my first 100. Yeah.
Wow. 8 hours 53.
I was pretty happy. Yeah, I was stoked.
Hit the wall anywhere through that?
About 86k.
Yeah.
I was for the first 60k. I was still sitting at 4 minutes 50 a k.
Yeah. Wow.
I was flying, and I felt really good. It wasn't until I had to go back up to the Spit and do a few laps around that big grass area up there next to the Seaway.
Yep.
The headspace wasn't that good. But once I got out of there and headed back into surface, it sort of cleared up. I thought, I know I've only got about 4 or 5k to go to the surface, and let's just get this done. And I wasn't flying, but believe me, I was running 700 metres, walking 300, running 700, walking 300, and that's how I got through it. But once I turned around and headed for home, the mind was just back in a good space again, but the legs weren't.
And do you think you'll ever want to run another 100?
I'd love to, but just getting the training done at the moment is a really hard thing. I have ran so many miles on a treadmill in the last 12 years. It's just really taking its toll. I've been very, very blessed with the people who've helped me out over the last 10, 12 years with running on the road. It's time for a bit of a break, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm loving it. If I want to run for 20 minutes on a treadmill, I do. If I want to run an hour, I do. If I want to do a spin class, I just do it. Whatever I feel like doing, and I'm still keeping myself reasonably fit. So I'm happy with that at the moment. So I'd like to do something bigger than 7 marathons. I'd like to do Coast to Cosy one day.
Wow.
Which is 240k. But getting the entry, getting not to be entered, but getting to actually to qualify is another one, because a lot of these runs now, there's a lot of trail runs, and let's face it, those trail runs they're 10 times harder than what I've ever done. They do 100 miles through the. I couldn't. I probably could do something like that, but I had to see the time. It can be a long few days, that's for sure.
Wow. Well, we've had Sam Weir on one of the previous episodes who has had a few experiences with Coast to Kosciuszko, and then this year Badwater. Yes,
he was good. Yeah.
And so we both know.
Well, he helped out in the 100 last year with me.
Yeah, fantastic.
Amazing athlete. He just puts his hand up when he can. If he's not doing too much himself, he always says, "I'll help out." It's just amazing. But a lot of people do. It's runners are a very helping bunch of people. They want to help out, and they've always got advice for someone, and it's not like they're rude about they've beaten someone. We'll all give someone a nudge, I've beaten you, especially if you've known them for a while, but they're always willing to help out, which is a good thing. It's a good community-based thing running.
Wow. And Damo, in the lead up to your 7 marathons, 7 days, 7 states, and your 100k ultra and different things, what's a typical training week look like for you Monday to Sunday?
Now or prior to that?
What did it when you were ticking off these big major items?
Well, in the morning I'd get up. Each day would change. It depends how I'd feel. And if it was running, if I could get on the road, it'd be 20, 25k, 30k. If it was at the treadmill, it would be the same. 2.5 hours on the treadmill. I'd be running, and that afternoon. I had a stationary bike, and it was mainly an ergo bike, and it was just pure strength work. And I'd sit on that, and I'd ride 100k, 3 hours. I'd ride on that, 120k, and I would do that. I would ride that on the bike at least 4 times a week.
Yep.
And then I'd probably notch up 100 to 150k a week running.
Yep.
With Peter Hall coming on every Saturday morning and going out doing 24k. Other than that, that was pretty much it. That's all I had time for.
Wow.
It was just running in the morning, cycling in the afternoon, cycling in the morning, running in the afternoon. Depends how I woke up.
Yep.
It depends what I wanted to do first off in the morning.
But we're talking about hours every day.
Hours, 5.5, 6 hours a day.
Yep. What's your most loved training session, Damo?
My most loved training session. I love my speed work.
Yep.
I love to see how fast you can actually go. Yep. I'm not that fast. I do love my long runs, but I think my speed work on the treadmill probably.
Yeah?
On the treadmill, yeah. I've run faster on the treadmill than I can on the road.
Yeah.
I think if you don't keep your leg speed up, I'll be put into the back wall somewhere because I've run over 20k an hour on the treadmill for up to 45 seconds.
Yeah.
I've only done it a few times, but that's at the end of session of doing what I've done prior to that, and I could not run that on the road.
How does that feel compared to when Mark let you go at the track that morning? Does it feel like
scary?
It's free? Yeah, scary.
Because I know if I go down at the track, I'm only going to roll and hit the deck. If I come off at a treadmill at 20k an hour, I'm going to do some bad damage. Real bad damage. So it's exhilarating but scary at the same time. And I don't hold on. I'm not holding on. So I'm running. I slide my hand. My right hand always never lets go of the treadmill. And my right arm is sort of up a little bit, just to give me that little bit of freedom. My left arm's always up, so it gives me that little bit of freedom.
And Damo, least liked training session. Least liked.
Backing up the next day. I don't really have a least like training session. I just love getting out there doing it. Whether it's a slow long run or a hard fast run, a long slow ride. I can't say I've ever hated a session or disliked a session. It's all got to be done. And if you want to achieve something, you got to get off your backside and go do it. I can't say I've ever disliked a session. Just the pain of getting up and getting dressed. That first 50 metres is painful, but other than that, no, I've never disliked a session.
And Damo, on the running, I recall one long run that we were in the same running group. Different runners were piloting you along that run. We were going south on the Gold Coast Marathon course. I think it was a 3-hour run we're all out there doing, or somewhere close to that. And I remember being taking over as the pilot for a bit and grabbing the rope and saying, all right, Damo, coming up, we've got, a roundabout veering left. Getting myself ready to say that. And it was one of the first runs I'd had piloting you. So, and obviously it's a big trust exercise for you to trust a new pilot. So it was somewhat feeling like I was feeling the pressure, mate. I don't want to get it wrong. Anyway, I've never forgotten. You said to me, we must be pretty close to the Oasis.
Yes.
And I remember just being floored, thinking, wow, how do you know that? So talk to us about, what as a physiotherapist I can only put down to a heightened sense of proprioception, the awareness of your body in space. How can you be out on a run for 2 hours plus, not have technically seen any of that, but still have such a bearing on your geography to know where you are? And another thing, listeners, this gives an idea of the heightened sense of sense development. I've run with Damien around the local area here. We're both sitting today, and it's a plethora of streets. And Damien knows the streets better than I do. And he'll tell me to go left in Muir Street, right in whatever street, and turn left up the end here. And I'm just following Damien's guide. So, mate, tell us about that. How does that work?
I think it's just I've been lucky growing up on the Gold Coast. I was a painter also, so I travelled far and wide. Admittedly, a lot of our runs are on the foreshore. So you sort of just get to know where you are. And as you know, the longer you run, more often you run, the longer you run, you don't get as tired, So you sort of, and I don't have that concentration of my guide runner where I just got to run. I just got to keep my feet on the ground and that's it. So I'm not concentrating on what am I going to trip over next. Do I have to get myself around this bend or around this corner up this gutter? That's my guide runners. That's what my guide runner does. So they're the ones who've got to concentrate, 1,000 times more than I do. I've had runners, I've taken them over to Narang from home here, and I live in Labrador, and they're just befuddled. How do I get there? How do I get home? But I think I've just based it around that I've driven around so much painting and Gold Coast hasn't changed. Yeah. All the streets are pretty much the same. Put me in somewhere like Robina, I'll be like a little lost rabbit. I got no idea over that. Even when my wife's driving, I got no idea. But I tend to stick to the same places I always have been. I don't know. I use my brain a lot. I've always used my brain with just different things, I suppose, and it's just kept my memory there, I suppose. I can't really explain how it happens, but it does befuddle people. How do I get around and know still exactly where I am?
Oh, it's incredible. It really is. And Damo, through your sporting career, has there ever been the aspiration of Paralympic Games or representing the country?
Oh yes, it has. Yeah, there has been. Yeah, I've missed out a couple of times. So, look, I'm nearly 46. I always wanted to go for the marathon, but I'm never quick enough. I'd have to run sort of sub 2:45 even to be trying to be selected. I think in 2012 there was don't hold me to this. I think it was a Spanish fellow who won the 10,000, the 5,000, 10,000, and the marathon. I think it was in London, or it might have been in Beijing. Yeah. And I think he ran like a 2:30, and that was after winning the 5 and the 10.
Wow.
I'm not that. I mean, I'm a gay runner, but I'm not that good. Cycling, I was just unfortunate. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong year. Yeah. And it's just the way it was. But I do have one last ditch I'd like to have a crack at, and that's at the Commonwealth Games in Brisbane.
Yep.
There is the 200-metre sprint on the track for cycling.
Yep.
I don't know how I'd go. I've always only trained for long stuff, and Pursuit's only 4K, but that is tough enough on a cycling track going flat out for just over 4 minutes. Yeah. I'd have to do a lot of work and get a really strong bike, because some of these boys from overseas, they're like man mountains, and they're running sort of mid 9 seconds for 200 metres, on a track. So. Wow. I think that'd be my last ditch effort if I wanted to give it a go.
Talking about track cycling or running?
Track cycling.
Yeah. So
I'm too old to run against these young little whippers these days. I'm nearly 46.
So it'd be 2018, looking potentially at the Paralympics. The Para Games, I should say, for the Commonwealth Games in 2018. Yeah,
there's a few options out there. Nothing on the track or the field for me that I've ever competed in, and the only other one is the cycling. So I might try and have a go at that, but see how we go, see how the body holds up. And I'm still training, 350 to 550k a week with my running, and more cycling so now than running. So,
Damo, very impressive. And mate, tell me as we bring this to a close, who's that one athlete that you most admire and why?
Oh, I've never thought about this. One athlete I've most admired as a professional.
It can be anyone.
Anyone,
professional or otherwise. Let's start with a professional athlete.
Oh. I've never had one. I've never thought about it. I think everybody who does an exceptional job to get themselves in a national team is just, let's put it, they don't get there by paying their own way, do they? They put the effort in, they put the work in. Yeah. I think they're all inspirational. Yeah.
Anyone in particular for you?
I used to like watching Michael Jordan play.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Rob De Costello as a runner. I'll never forget that memory in 1982 when he won that. It's just as a runner, and I wasn't running back then. I was still at school, but that inspires me. Just to hear him at the Gold Coast every year is just so inspiring. It's just like, oh God, and you still got the passion. Yeah. It's like, I go to gyms and there's some 80 or 90-year-olds at our gym who still have the passion for training. I'm thinking, I hope I am that good at that age, and I hope I want to do it at that age, and not just think, I'm 90, I think I've had enough. These people want to still go to the gym and train. I think, I hope I have that. So they're inspirational to me.
Yeah, wow.
At that age.
Powerful. Damo, what would you say from your years of competing at high levels in sport and overcoming some incredible adversity and odds? What would be the one bit of advice you'd give to people looking to perform at their physical best?
Don't let nothing beat you. Train to your hardest. Train to your potential. You can overcome just about anything you want to. Yeah.
What more can we say? Powerful. Damien Williams, you have been and still are, in my assumption, one of the most inspiring guys I know. And certainly when I've been out running and feeling like you're having a bit of a flat spot or a tough time, having you in the running group over the years has certainly been the perspective that I think so many people draw so much from. So,
yeah, thank you
mate,
very much.
Thanks for the thank you for the inspiration, everything you provided me personally with. And mate, certainly look forward to seeing some more of these sporting chapters
Hopefully so.
unfold, the 2018 Com Games.
Yep.
And anything else on the bucket list?
No, not really. No. I'll just plod along and just see how I go, and just keep training, keep myself fit, and see where it ends me up at the middle of next year. I'd like to. There is one thing I'd like to do is that I might try and aim for it is break the 100k road race next year in June, but it's a very hard ask because at that stage everybody is training for the Gold Coast Marathon. So there's plenty of time in the tank. So.
And Damien, your children, they're how old now? 17
and 15.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And so you're a busy dad as well.
A lot of times, yes.
Yeah.
Well, at that age, they like to take care of themselves. So I'm going here. Okay, then be careful, be safe. See you when you get home. It's a different era. So. Yeah.
So
no, it's fun though. It's another success. So, and everybody's dealt with that success of having kids.
Well, mate, Damien, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, there you have it. I trust you enjoyed this episode of the Physical Performance Show. What an incredible story Damien Williams is. Such a great perspective gainer, and also such an inspiring guy, how he goes about life, not feeling sorry for himself, but picking himself up and making the most of every day. Coming up in the next episode of the Physical Performance Show, I catch up with 4 times New Zealand Ironman champion. He's from across the ditch, lives on the Gold Coast. Actually know Max through the physio practice, POGO Physio, and we're going to have Max Beattie on the show. Max is a great young guy who had a career best performance at the Aussie Surf Titles this year. We're going to talk to Max about all things physical performance and his Ironman career, which is on the rise. So be sure to tune in next week for what will be episode 27 of the Physical Performance Show. Also, guys, if you've got any questions or comments or want to just interact with me on social media, you'll find me over at Brad_Beer. If you'd like to check out the show notes for this episode, you can find them over at POGO Physio, POGO physio.com.au. And if you've got any ideas for guests, feel free to let me know. Share with me on social around who you'd like to have on the Physical Performance Show. Coming up in a few episodes' time, I'm actually going to start to introduce some medical specialists that will pop in from time to time to share around the most cutting-edge information around the world of sports medicine. I think this will be a nice little complement to the show where we have the inspiring athletes appear. These medical specialists will just be able to give us an insight into the best and most current thinking around getting the most out of our physical bodies. So I'm hoping that'll be a great addition to the Physical Performance Show. If you think so, feel free to let me know. And lastly, if you enjoyed the show, I'd love it if you could jump over to iTunes and take the time to leave a quick review. Reviews really help the show get more visible, so more physical performers just like yourself can enjoy the show's content. And if you didn't like the show, go hard and leave a 1-star review. I'm okay with that too. Hey guys, have a great week. I'll catch you next week on the Physical Performance Show. Until then, keep performing at your physical best.